Hello and welcome to No Culty Vibes. I'm Cassie Marie, and in today's video, we are talking to my friend Cortney about L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology. This video is part 2 in my series where myself, a cult enthusiast and a former cult hopper, tells my friend who has never heard anything about Scientology all about the different aspects of Scientology. I will have part 1 to this series linked in the description below. So if you haven't seen that yet, go check that out first because we do reference some parts of that in part 2. Before you get too far into this video, I do want to give a trigger warning. L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology, was an absolute lunatic in many senses of the word. And we talk about difficult topics like child abuse, domestic violence, and suicide, suicidal ideation. So if those topics are difficult or heavy for you, please skip this, watch something else. I have a whole channel full of stuff. Take care of yourself. You know what's best for you. I also wanted to let you know that if you are listening to this on the podcast, I do have some visual aids in this episode. I show Cortney some pictures. So if you want to see those pictures, you can head on over to YouTube and watch the full video of this recording of this podcast. And also if you're on YouTube and maybe you're busy and you want to listen on the go, I do have a podcast. I am No Culty Vibes on all platforms, so you can find me wherever you listen to podcasts or on YouTube for videos. I'm also on TikTok and I will have clips of this video on TikTok. I'm also working on creating a membership for this channel. Cortney and I have so much content that we've recorded. So if you are enjoying this conversation, enjoying this series, and you want to hear more about the things that I tell Cortney, or just want to see more of us behind the scenes, I will have some options of that in the membership. I will be able to upload some of the visual things that I use, like the PowerPoints and stuff that I show Cortney, and maybe even some adult coloring pages. So stay tuned for that. I don't have it up and running yet, but as soon as I do, I will let you know. If you are not in a place where you want to do a membership yet, that is totally cool. Please make sure you like and subscribe to this if you haven't yet. Please tell your friends about this. I think right now is a really important time for people to know a little bit more about Scientology and understand how harmful it can be with all the Scientology protests going on, with Scientology in the news so much for lawsuits and things like that. And they're opening new buildings around several college campuses around the country. So I think people should know how harmful this destructive cult actually is. So no worries if you're not ready to support financially. Like, subscribe, tell your friends. I would appreciate it so much and love you forever. I think that's all I have to tell you before we get into it. So here we go. Watch me tell Cortney all about L. Ron Hubbard. Okay, L. Ron Hubbard stands for Lafayette Ron Hubbard.
Okay.
I don't know why he didn't go by Lafayette.
Yeah, why not Lafayette?
Hubbard, but he liked the L. dot. And then Scientology refers to him often as LRH.
Yeah.
Because L. Ron Hubbard is just a mouthful if you're saying it.
Lafayette Ron Hubbard would have maybe Lafayette's just too
long. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. A lot of people, especially on the interwebs, refer to him as L. Con Hubbard, which I think is really funny.
That's
really
good.
You'll see.
No, I mean, Scientology.
Yeah,
is a con.
Yes, and he's been a con man since the beginning.
Okay.
So remember in the last episode how I told you that there's a Scientology version and an actual reality grounded in real life, what actually happened version? Same is true for L. Ron Hubbard's life. His account of his life and Scientology's account of his life are entirely different.
Like his own account?
Life. Yes.
Like, is his account and Scientology's account the same though?
For the most part.
Okay. I was wondering if there was like 3 versions.
Kind of.
Scientology,
Sometimes. Sometimes. Yes. He's crazy. But he was raised by a supposedly normal family.
Okay.
He was like a normal kid. He was born March 13th, 1911.
Okay.
He died in the 80s. So
I didn't realize he'd been dead that long.
Yes.
So wait,
he's old.
It's been Miscavige since the 80s?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Isn't that crazy?
That's nuts. I figured he had died
David
somewhat
Miscavige
recently.
is also old.
Okay, you're going to tell me about him later. Okay, so you told me last week that they're waiting for like L. Ron to reincarnate that he's off researching.
Yeah.
80s? It's been a long time.
I have something really funny to tell you about that.
Okay.
So, but he was raised by, for all intents and purposes, a normal family. He was born in Tilden, Nebraska, and grew up mostly in Helena, Montana. But according to his account of his life, he was born on his grandfather's ranch in Montana that took up like a quarter of the state of Montana. He says his family had a ranch in Montana that was so big, it was like a quarter of the size of the state.
Okay.
That is not true.
I say none of that's true.
None of that is true.
Okay.
Well, his grandfather might have had a ranch in Montana, or he grew up in Montana, so his family might have like some land there. I didn't dig that.
But not a quarter of the state of
Yes,
Montana.
he does not like have a massive ranch.
Yeah.
Yes. And he was born in Nebraska. He wasn't born in Montana.
Yeah.
So
as somebody who's been to Nebraska, I could understand being like, actually,
yes.
Montana.
He also says that his life was like full of adventures all over the ranch in Montana. And then he had adventures in Asia, and he toured the East and studied under gurus like as a teenager and a young adult, and learned all kinds of like secrets about life and mankind.
So this is where
Asian
he's
gurus.
trying to like boost credentials that aren't there for the therapy of Scientology, of Dianetics.
Kind of. I mean, he just also
he's like faking
this stuff before he did Scientology, though.
Okay.
He told these lies before. He just wanted to be
this person.
Yes, like a great person. In reality, his dad was in the Navy.
Okay.
And they toured, he was stationed in Guam at one time. So he was kind of a Navy brat and was moved all over.
Okay.
And they were in Guam for a time, and the extent of his experience in the East was he went on like a 2-week long, what did I write here? Oh, a 10-day tour in China with families from the base, from the Navy base.
Oh, okay.
So that's the extent he's been to Guam.
Probably a very Americanized, protected sort of experience within China.
Yep.
Okay.
This is a picture of him that I thought looked like President Snow from the Hunger Games. There is something
with the gloves.
There is something really creepy about L. Ron Hubbard. I'm actually going to try to pull up a video for you to watch too. He's like weird looking.
Really?
Like he just looks weird to me.
Okay, so this looks like Putin to me.
Yeah, a little bit.
I don't know
like
if we
that.
can say that. Yeah, yes, actually.
I'm sure that's I don't think YouTube would do this for that.
But like that looks like I've also thought President Snow looked like a dictator, because he was a dictator, and the only dictator I know like face value of is Putin. So maybe that's why.
Yeah. So like with the flower too.
Yeah.
And the gloves.
And it's the gloves. It's the gloves.
But I thought in this picture he also kind of reminds me of President Snow.
Yeah.
I think it's the flowers.
It's the flower. It's the flower.
But it's like the vibe. It's like the vibe of his like appearance and it's like a whole thing.
Yeah.
But every time I see him talk or pictures of him or whatever, I'm like, he scares me. And I think it's because my brain is like,
you know who he is.
Yeah.
Probably.
But also my brain is like, Hunger.
Well,
like,
yeah.
It's scary.
To be fair, like super powerful men would always remind me of President Snow, probably. Because of reading the book.
That too. So after he toured around with his dad and was a Navy brat, he enlisted in George Washington University. And he claims that he graduated from George Washington University as a nuclear physicist. Do you think he graduated as a nuclear physicist?
No, I don't.
No.
Not with that look you just gave me.
No. He has no degrees at all.
None?
None. He got mostly D's in college. Okay, this is the funniest part to me is not only does he not have a degree in nuclear physics, he didn't go to George Washington University for physics at all.
I think you say he didn't go to George Washington University.
No, he didn't go. He didn't enroll in a physics program.
Was it science-based?
He enrolled in civil engineering.
Okay.
It's not even in the realm of nuclear physicist.
It's not even in the realm of the type of thing you would like have a knowledge to like write sci-fi either, which was like his two jobs. So it's like the Scientology thing and writing sci-fi. Who are you resourcing sci-fi knowledge from?
Exactly. Maybe he said nuclear physicist for like the sci-fi.
It probably is for that.
Too.
Yeah.
Because he said a lot of this before Scientology as well. He dropped out in his second year. because he was so bad at school.
I was
like,
like,
they
to
were
be
just like,
fair,
"You suck."
college, hard.
Yeah.
Not for everyone. And I say that as somebody who was a fifth year senior. Like, it took me 5 years, okay?
Yeah, I mean, college is hard for us.
It is hard. Civil engineering is very hard.
Yeah.
I don't know how much civil engineering you're doing in your first year.
Getting all D's.
Getting all D's.
Which, again, you're right. That's fine. People get D's.
Yeah.
I've never gotten D's. But people get D's.
Never?
I was trying to be relatable and be like,
this is where
I've
Cassie
gotten a
tells us
D.
all that
I
she's
don't-
very
I don't
smart
get D's.
and just like a really good
No,
student.
No, I'm just psycho. I just refuse to get D's. But he's not the smart genius.
No.
Like, whatever.
Nuclear physicist.
Like, wanted everyone to think he was. So
and this is all easily findable information.
Yes.
So are Scientologists not Googling?
No, they're not.
Hubbard?
So in Scientology, there's like a policy that says that you cannot look up negative things about your religion, about Scientology, because it's bad for your reactive mind and your engrams and like the body pains and stuff. So if you look
understanding his roots, just Googling L. Ron Hubbard a negative thing?
It is. It would be not good to do. You're not supposed to Google Scientology, and you're not supposed to Google L. Ron Hubbard. You're not supposed to watch any documentaries about Scientology.
Well, then that cognitive dissonance would click in.
Right. It's like their form of information control.
Yeah.
And it's not just like frowned upon. Like they ask you if you have in auditing sessions. So like if
not
you
the auditing sessions.
Yeah. So if you like look it up, you're gonna have to answer for that in auditing. And they're gonna like, especially if you have a problem, one of the questions they ask you is like, have you looked up anything negative about Scientology? Because that could be what's causing your depression. Yeah.
I mean, it could cause depression. If I Googled L. Ron Hubbard,
to be fair,
and saw that he was a D student in an engineering degree, and I was like, wow, I've given this institution all of my money and all of my time.
Yes.
Maybe I'd be
a little depressed too.
Sad.
Yeah. Yeah. But then you would have to answer for all kinds of things and it would be crazy. Before you join Scientology, they also ask you, have you looked up or read anything negative about Scientology? And sometimes they won't let you join.
They're being picky about who joins?
Well, now, yeah, because there's all kinds of information out there. So they don't want to infiltrate Scientology.
Hold on. Didn't you say those numbers are struggling? If somebody has information and still wants to join and give them their money, who cares at that point?
Because then they can't, because there's a lack of information control. If you come in compromised, it's a lot harder for them to indoctrinate you into their way of thinking.
In my brain, I'm like, if I already know all of the crazy stuff about Scientology, if I've seen the South Park episode and I still want to join, I'm probably like looking for something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I also...
Or I'm going to take it down from the inside, which is probably what they're very scared of.
That is what they are very scared of. I also have gotten a DM from somebody in Australia, a Scientologist in Australia, that said, that was like a younger person. And he said that he has read everything about Scientology, watched Going Clear, like knows a lot of the stuff, and he's still a Scientologist. And he said, all I can say is that like it's helped me exponentially in my life. And sometimes if you have nothing else and you're desperate for help, and even if it's like psychosomatic that it's helping you, like whether it's real,
say like whether it's a placebo effect,
yeah, or not,
whether therapy would have given you the exact same outcome, you're still gaining a positive outcome from them.
And that's kind of what I told them is what I was like, I'm so glad that like you're doing great in your life and it's helped you. But there are a lot of different things that could potentially help you. And those things are not human and child trafficking cults. So we're getting there. We're getting there.
Okay.
Sorry.
Wait, what?
We got to start from the beginning.
Okay.
This is a slow process. So after he dropped out of school is when he started writing science fiction or pulp fiction. And he actually holds the Guinness Book of World Records number for the most books published.
Still?
Yes.
Crazy.
I Googled it today because they said that in Going Clear in the documentary, and that was made quite a while ago.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure
if something had changed.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah. I saw, like, if you look it up right now, it says that he's the most prolific author ever.
Well, I mean, he wrote that whole bridge, you said, too.
Yeah.
Like,
So,
obviously those don't count as published works, but obviously he had a lot.
I wonder, because they said his first published works was like 1930 or 40 something, and his last was 2006. But obviously, if he died in 1986, I assume Scientology is like continuing to publish things in his name.
Posthumously.
Yeah, I don't know if that has anything to do with it, or
people's works get published after they pass pretty regularly within the publishing industry, especially if they are like a prolific like institute of their own, and if they have like things hidden or like
so
if Scientology is keeping all these houses and coming across things in filing cabinets and things, maybe they are
that, and they say that because remember when I told you that they rewrite the bridge, they also have republished Dianetics. Like they've republished and they've made every Scientologist buy the new Dianetics book. And you have Scientologists buy like whole libraries of books that you're required to buy as a Scientologist as you're studying on course. They're very expensive books.
Even normal books are expensive.
They're much more expensive than normal books. Dianetics is normal priced.
I was like, I need to know how much Dianetics is.
But yeah.
Oh, I can buy it off of thrift books for $3.
There you go.
Scientologists, if you're looking for a deal.
That's probably the old version.
It might be.
So I wonder if like they've republished new versions of books because they found
the new version is $7.
Oh, okay.
On thrift books.
Very affordable.
So if you're looking for a deal, and you don't have to go through Scientology to get it, you can get off thrift books.
Yeah, you can buy several of L. Ron Hubbard's like Scientology books anywhere.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, there are several places.
I feel like they were like books. Very protective.
Well, Dianetics is the one that they like push the most to get people, try to get people in.
Book of Mormon.
Yeah. Well,
kind of in the sense that it's just like people should read this. This is so important. Everybody should read it.
Yep. So his career took off when he began writing for a magazine called Astounding Science Fiction. And he, Isaac Asimov or whatever.
Oh yeah,
like
I know
the
that
really famous. PJ reads his books all the time.
Yeah.
He wrote for that magazine as well.
Oh,
so
cool.
like some really
like
popular,
a renowned, like people should it's recognition for like reasons.
Yep. And then so all of these books that he wrote before Dianetics. Remember how you were saying Xenu sounds like a science fiction thing?
It is science fiction.
Well, it wasn't just Xenu that is in these books that were published before Scientology. Engrams is in it. Body Thetans is in it. Like almost everything that he said like he discovered in Scientology, he wrote as science fiction books before he wrote Dianetics in Scientology.
Do you know how mad that would make me as a Scientologist?
I'd be flipping tables.
I'd be mad.
I'd be pissed too.
I'd be mad.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? No way. That would make me mad.
But I think
But also as a science fiction book, slay. Like great story.
Yeah.
I'd read that.
So some people say
the Body Thetans is like an interesting sci-fi idea. I could understand wanting to read a story about that.
Yes. So
story.
There are also mixed reviews on whether he was a good science fiction writer or not. Some people say that his books were awful, and some people say that they were really good.
Remember when I told you about C.S. Lewis?
Yeah.
So it's only 3 books, I guess, that he wrote a science fiction, and it's kind of similar, like mixed similarly reviews, split.
Yeah. But at least C.S. Lewis wrote like the Lion, Lion, Witch, and the
Wardrobe. Chronicles of Narnia.
The Chronicle. That's what I was trying to say. I was like, that's the one book. There are more books.
The entire series.
Those were good.
They were.
They're good. Like they're written well.
Yeah.
So yeah, all of that
Lewis was a good author.
Yeah. So after he started writing science fiction, he married his first wife, Margaret Polly Grubb, in 1933. Everyone called her Polly, and he had 2 children with her: Lafayette Ron Hubbard Jr., who later was referred to as Nibs, and Catherine Hubbard.
Nibs and Catherine.
Yeah.
I don't know why that got me. Anyway.
Nibs was LRH's right-hand man, like early on in Scientology.
Why is it not Nibs? Why is it never mind. I'm sure you'll get there eventually.
I actually don't know anything about why he's Nibs.
No, why not Nibs instead of David Miscavige?
Yes. So because Nibs was L. Ron Hubbard's right-hand man early on in Scientology, but left by 1959.
That's early in Scientology.
Rejected his father, period, as his father and changed his last name from Hubbard to DeWolf.
What a hard step. Like, that's like as far away as you could get.
Yeah, he did not want to be, because he had the same name too.
Yeah.
So he did not want to be L. Ron Hubbard. Like, he was
To
like,
be
nope,
fair,
I'm out. I'm done. This is crazy. And then Polly and Catherine were never involved in Scientology
at all.
ever.
Interesting.
Yep. They never did anything.
Were they like good? Were they like a good Christian family? Like, were the people who raised him based in any sort of churchy organization? His wife, like,
I don't
Montana
think he
in
wasn't,
the 30s.
Yeah, he was. I mean, I think he was just generally. I think pretty much everyone was some sort of like Christian-based religious.
Yeah.
Something, but he was not a particularly religious man.
Okay.
No.
Well, I could see trying to convince my like Montana-based Christian wife to join this thing that I'm starting, and it being difficult to convince her.
So there's a different reason why they're not in it.
Never mind.
That we'll get to.
Okay.
But this
Jumping
also was
ahead.
in like in the 30s and 40s,
Yeah.
so there's like not a ton of like information.
Yeah,
about
this is before he's famous.
Paul.
This is before.
Yes. And when like, because he lies about everything, we have to go off of records.
Yeah.
And what other people say. And since they didn't want anything to do with it, Nibs didn't give like a ton of information about them. And who knows what LRH said or what said about them. Like, who knows? But he did enlist in the Navy while he was married to Polly, because it was World War II, because the war was happening.
Yeah.
So he enlisted in the Navy. This is when it gets funny.
Oh no. Okay.
So he had all these grandiose stories of being in the Navy because he was a like captain.
Sea org. Yes, he's a Navy person, and his dad was in the Navy. Yes. I get it.
Now he was like an officer in the Navy, and he talks about how he went on all these adventures and did all this great stuff, and he was so cool. And he claimed that he was awarded 29 combat medals. And Scientology is like all about it. Like, they talk about how he's this nuclear physicist and he's this renowned war hero. Like, they say that like in all of their stuff, and they have all of his medals. Like, they have they have like medals.
I mean, you can buy those at like thrift stores and stuff.
Yeah.
Estate sales.
He never received any battle honors at all. Similar to how he wasn't even in school for physics
at all.
At
he
all.
wasn't even in school for like chemistry or biology or like another like sciencey thing,
right?
Which is like wild.
Right.
And so the fact that he was in like war times and being in, didn't a lot of people receive some battle honors?
A lot of people, especially officers. Yes.
World War II was a very like active.
I'm going to explain to you why he has the battle honors in a second.
Okay.
So a lot of people have researched him. There's actually a really good book called Barefaced Messiah, I think is what it's called, which is a whole book about L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah.
So like a lot of people have done research on this and pulled FOIA records of his military records to try to look into some of his claims. And his FOIA records literally say that he was like a shitty officer, and that he was lacking in essential leadership and decision-making skills, and he was unfit for service.
Does he get like dishonorably discharged?
I don't think he gets dishonorably discharged. They said he was lacking in essential leadership and cognitive ability to be a good officer. He was constantly admonished, and he was relieved of his command after he accidentally shelled a Mexican island. Like, I don't think a people island. Like, I think it was just an island that Mexico had ownership of. Like, it was a Mexican island. And
don't
he just
start another war, Lafayette, Ron Hubbard.
Yes.
Gosh,
which I thought was wild. Busy. He also would drop bombs, like, into the ocean all the time. But, like, he would see, like, magnetic rocks come up on, like, the, why can't I think of words? Sonar. And he would like bomb them, but they were like rocks. He was so bad.
It's like stupid, untrained. Maybe that's poor training, because like the war effort in World War II was very like come and serve. Right. Everybody needs to serve. for God
and
and
he was
country.
probably made an officer because like his dad was in the Navy, and he probably faked.
I was about to say you'd have to have a college education.
He probably faked a college education, and it was harder to just give him a goog back in the day.
Oh yeah, forgot the millennials, just like growing up with Google.
I'm just making that up. I have no idea how he became an officer if he was like that bad.
Yeah. But I wonder. Yeah. I mean, he's a con man.
Yeah, he's El Con
So
Hubbard.
this is my thing. Yeah, didn't have the cognitive abilities to serve in the Navy.
Yeah,
but starting a religion
totally makes sense. Yeah. Scientology stories, and like L. Ron Hubbard says that he was also like injured in battle a lot, and he said that he was hit by Nazi torpedoes and blinded from flashbangs, or I don't know what. I can't remember exactly what he said blinded him.
Being blind.
He claimed in some of his writings that he did later that he was permanently disabled.
That makes me really like uncomfy. That he's like faking.
Yep.
Specifically, like disability.
So, I am going to read this a little bit later because it applies to him starting to write Dianetics, but his medical history, like that they got with FOIA requests, say that he exposed his eyes to strong sunlight and has to wear tinted glasses ever since. It's what his Navy medical records say. But L. Ron Hubbard says he was blinded.
Wow.
Yep.
Faking a disability is so heinous.
Not in 1945.
Even in 1945 or whatever.
Or whenever he was let go. I don't even know.
I would say whenever he was discharged from
the
Navy.
That's Polly. That's the only picture like on the internet.
Oh.
And that's his son, Ron DeWolf. Not L. Ron Hubbard Jr., Ron DeWolf.
Yeah.
He spoke out against him in the 80s, and he died in 1991.
Oh.
Yeah. But I mean, he was old in 1991. He was born in like the 30s.
Oh, yeah.
So after he was discharged from the Navy, he abandoned his first family.
Wow, this guy sucks.
It gets worse.
I can't say that any differently. This guy sucks.
And it gets worse, Cortney.
Okay. I'm feeling myself.
I feel like every single thing I tell you about Scientology, you're going to be like, well, that was really bad. And just assume that I'm going to say, oh, there's more.
There's more.
So he abandoned his first family to move in with Jack Parsons. That name rings a bell for me, but I don't know much about Jack Parsons.
Okay.
But he was an occultist. He was a cult leader on his own, and he was a practitioner of black magic. And they did Oreo Templi Orientis, was like a satanic cult back then. And the leader, it was based on the teachings of Aleister Crowley.
Okay.
That also rings a bell to me. But I don't know who Jack Parsons and Aleister Crowley are.
I wonder if they're just people within the cult sphere that you kind of exist
I think they're like the roots of Satanic Panic.
Oh.
I think they're like, if you trace like Satanic Panic and think about like satanic occultists, I think they're famous.
Honestly, now that you've said that, my mom was a kid. So she was born in 1970. So she was like a teenager in Satanic Panic. Right. Does that make sense? Like an early teen, because that was like early mid 80s, right? So she remembers Satanic Panic like vividly. And now that you've said that actually, because you were like, it sounds familiar. And I'm like, they just sound like normal names that are like kind of common. Right. But now that you've said that, I wonder if
I think these men were kind of like the roots of Satanism in America.
Okay.
But so LRH lived with a Satanist.
So if you want to get rich, you don't write books. You start a cult.
And he abandoned his first family to live with Jack Parsons in this weird cult house, and they would do satanic.
Was there like
rituals.
A lot of like roommates? Was he just like one of many?
Yeah, there were quite a few people that lived there, and they said Jack Parsons only rented out rooms to other like eccentric people, is how this person put it on Going Clear. and they would constantly do like satanic rituals. They were trying to call upon a goddess to impregnate someone to give birth to the Antichrist.
Oh,
so that's what
cool.
they were. That's what LRH was doing, chilling with Jack Parsons in the 40s.
You know, if I got whiff of somebody being like, we're calling up somebody to impregnate somebody with the Antichrist in the 40s,
freak out.
I would have freaked out.
Yeah,
I would have freaked out. Maybe people should have been panicking.
I mean, I would.
I would have. It's like, by the way, expect the Antichrist in about 9 months.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
Think about that, like pre-internet, yeah.
That's actually,
I'm gonna die.
That's actually very scary.
Yeah,
and it's also scary that these people likely wholeheartedly believed in their ability to do that.
Right, and it's like dark.
Yeah,
so,
it's dark.
Yeah, so satanic panic was actually mostly fake.
Yeah,
like there was not like, and also Satanists, like there's like Satanists are a thing now.
Yeah,
and the Church of Satan is more anti-Christian.
I actually know a lot
pro-devil.
about like Satanism today,
Right.
and like the Church of Satan and stuff.
Right, but like this, like what they were doing is what people think of when they think of occult and Satanists
and like
and evil. Like they were
blood magic and death.
They
magic
were doing it
and,
for evil reasons to bring about evil onto the earth.
Like necromancy and like those things.
It was creepy. It was
in
dark.
the 80s. It was more politically driven.
Right. It was a whole thing. But while LRH was living with Jack Parsons, he fell in love with Jack Parsons' girlfriend, with his lover, Sarah Northrop.
Okay.
And apparently it caused a whole thing in the house because he stole the guy's girlfriend.
As it should. Okay.
Right. Like
he sucks.
Yes.
He can't even leave this guy's girlfriend alone. He's letting him live there.
Yeah. So apparently Hubbard separated from Polly in 1945 or 1946.
Okay.
But the divorce was not official. But Hubbard married Sarah in 1946.
Not
and
legally.
then the divorce, I think, legally.
You can't
like
be
they're
legally married to the same
that's what
two
I
people
thought.
at the same time.
Yeah. So I don't know how this worked, but he married Sarah in 1946, but his divorce with Holly didn't go through until 1947. So I don't know if they gave you like a leeway back then because
maybe.
Well, I'm thinking like paperwork probably took a long time because they didn't have the internet. So maybe they were like, you have a grace period.
I love that we just keep going back to. Can you imagine no internet?
And like I think
having
paperwork
to calculate on your keyboard and reading cursive.
No, they would be writing. Did they have typewriters in the 40s?
Yeah. Oh, okay. They had typewriters in the 40s.
I don't know. They had typewriters in the 80s before computers.
I think the typewriters are kind of an old
thing.
Like technology.
This is getting embarrassing. That I don't know.
I don't know who it's embarrassing for though, actually. Because what if I'm like, yeah, they had typewriters forever, and gonna like gonna comment like, no. Only one of you is right.
So yeah, so
okay, he got married and then divorced.
Right, and so everybody calls him like a bigamist. Is that what bigamy is? Being married to two people?
Oh yeah, So that's like what having multiple wives is, right?
Yeah.
Mormon.
But not like polygamy. So like polygamous.
I think
I don't know what let's Google. Tell me what
the difference between bigamy and polygamy.
Yes. Let's find that out.
Unlike the multiple wives of one man in polygamist relationships, a bigamist has only two spouses, be they husbands or wives.
Got it. Okay.
So if he had 3 wives, he would have been a polygamist. Since he was only married to 2 people at the same time, he's a bigamist.
Got it. So this is where it gets really sad.
Okay.
Sarah was 13 years younger than him.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 13 years old for some reason.
No, she was an adult, but she was 13 years younger than him. So she would have been, he was not that old.
He's not that old.
In the 40s. He
was born in 1911.
So he would have been in his 30s.
In 46, he would have been like 35. So she was like 24.
Yeah. She would have been really young. And she thought that he was this like really cool war hero with 26 medals and like.
So he's been telling that story for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she thought he was this really cool guy. But she said that the way they got married was because he was extremely manipulative and they got into a huge fight and he told her that he would kill himself if she didn't marry him. And she said she believed him, so she married him. And then he constantly, while they were married, told her that he would kill her rather than her leave him or him leave
red
her.
flags are flagging. My goodness.
So this is the biggest account we have of L. Ron Hubbard being abusive is to this second wife, Sarah.
Okay.
Because it's really weird in Scientology
So
that like
Nibs didn't talk about him being abusive to his mom or
no,
sister.
not
or
really.
Him. Okay.
Not like
And she never spoke out, you said.
right.
Only...
And then in Scientology, like usually cults, there is some kind of sexual abuse happening at the top. Like most of them on the inner circle, at the very least, there's some sort of like sexual abuse.
We find that a lot.
Right. But no one says that about Hubbard in Scientology. Like no one says that he specifically was abusing people or children. Like no one even has allegations of abuse against him.
Isn't that the Shiny Happy People? That guy was like, it's kind of similar though. He wasn't super implicated in like extremely
Bill Gothard.
Yeah.
No, he was.
He was?
Yes.
Okay. Then maybe I was thinking
he was sexually abusing many
Okay. Girls. That's what I thought. But I thought it was like inappropriate but not extreme in the Shiny Happy People documentary. That's kind of how some of the victims spoke out, that he would be like handsy but not necessarily outright.
Yeah, I don't know. And not like mean or like yeah, I don't know. But no, there's like nothing.
But then the Wild Wild Country cult, they were a sex cult and nobody implicated that guy in sexual misconduct either.
That's no, right? I'm pretty sure there were
I thought it was all like money laundering and stuff.
I thought
he was like driving
there were
Bentleys.
A couple of people that said he had like many wives and like an inner circle of women that it may have been more consensual than not.
This is a reminder for me to remember that Netflix documentaries are only showing parts of the thing, and I should probably give things a quick goog. I watch these things and I'm like, wow,
amazing,
that's crazy. And then I don't like Ben will read a book.
There's so much more information like in books.
Yeah.
So
but he's like mostly clean of that sort of allegation
in Scientology.
Within Scientology. Yeah.
But with Sarah is like where we hear him being an awful person. So they did have one daughter together named Alexis.
Okay.
And then he wrote a lot of science fiction and began writing Dianetics while he was still married to Sarah. And Sarah,
when the fresh cult experience was fresh on his brain.
Yes. And Sarah helped him write a lot of things. And some people speculate that maybe he has published so many books because Sarah helped him write. So like he was able to just pump them out.
The Great Gatsby was probably written by Zelda.
I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
people speculate.
Yeah. Sarah was like a really good writer. Well, and like they think that she helped him.
So it was like two writers writing under one name in the 40s.
Yep. So then he started writing Dianetics and he published it in 1950. So this is like how he sold Dianetics when he wrote it. Remember, I talked about him writing it, and that's like the basis of the belief system. But remember his permanently disabled physically stories?
Oh, yeah.
He claimed he was hit by Nazi torpedoes. He claimed he was blinded. I told you that the officer said that he just had to wear sunglasses.
Yeah.
Because he just looked at the sun for too long.
Well,
I don't know why.
I thought he was trying to get out of the Navy.
Maybe. That's possible too. So on Leah Remini's Scientology in the Aftermath, I rewatched the episode about L. Ron Hubbard.
Oh, cool.
His life and lives. So I got most of this from that episode. It's the life and lives of L. Ron Hubbard, and the documentary Going Clear talks about all of this stuff. And I had to do some Googling to fill in some gaps. But the guy who wrote Barefaced Messiah said that he would L. Ron Hubbard would like carry pieces of metal around in his pockets, like shrapnel. And he would like walk into a room and like drop a piece of shrapnel on the floor and be like, oh, that one's been working its way out of my body for a while. And he said he was so full of shrapnel. But Scientology and Dianetics was helping him like heal his body.
Was he ever audited?
Yes. L. Ron Hubbard did auditing a lot and auditing on himself a lot.
You can't audit yourself.
He's the leader. He can do whatever he wants.
Oh my God.
He would get on the e-meter and he would do auditing on the e-meter. and do it himself.
Well, I mean, if you have a particularly strenuous auditing session with yourself, maybe you're dropping shrapnel. I don't know.
Yeah, he another part of his actual medical history, not what he claimed his medical history was that he sprained his left ankle while on duty and has pain in the longitudinal arch of the left foot when walking.
Okay.
So his foot hurt, but
a little, but some, or forever, maybe.
But there was nothing that says he was permanently and physically disabled.
Okay.
He also says that he was abandoned by his friends and family as a hopeless cripple. But he healed himself and became able to see and walk again.
Through this wonderful system called Dianetics.
Yes, ma'am. He worked his way back to fitness and strength using only what he knew about man and his relationship to the universe.
Wow. What a rags to riches story, really.
All good cult leaders have them.
Yeah. What's our rags to riches story? So is that him?
This is L. Ron Hubbard. This is Sarah Northrup.
I was saying that's going to be his second
that's
wife.
Sarah.
She's pretty.
She was so pretty.
She's very young.
So this is a picture of him and Sarah, but Scientology still circulated this picture for a long time. As if she wasn't in it? And like edited her out of it.
Does she leave?
I'll explain.
I say, is that why?
And that's Alexis.
She looks so much like him.
She looks exactly like him. Isn't that crazy?
She looks so much like him. Okay, so she looks very much like him, but does she? I'm just going to get there.
Yep. So Dianetics, that story sold Dianetics. Like people were like, wow, he can see and walk again.
Well, yeah. And miracles sell lots of religions.
Yeah. And there were a lot of people felt like they weren't being helped by modern medicine and therapy. And modern medicine and all that was new in the 40s and 50s. There were a lot of things that were just starting to be used in that time in medicine. So according to Newsweek, just 2 months after Dianetics was published, 55,000 copies were sold. And 500 Dianetics clubs were established.
Wow, that's
so people,
too.
People started using Dianetics as this new breakout science of the mind thing.
Were people claiming success in the 50s or late 40s or anything?
No.
Okay, because there's always anecdotal evidence towards things working as well.
Yeah, I think it was all placebo effect because this didn't last long. But for a time, L. Ron Hubbard was raking in the cash because he sold 55,000 copies.
Yeah.
So he was making a lot of money and he was giving lectures on Dianetics and people were paying $500 a piece for L. Ron Hubbard lectures.
In the 50s?
In the 50s. I Googled it.
I was going to say, what is it?
Almost the equivalent of $6,500 today. Just under.
Really quickly. Inflation is insane. Second, could you imagine paying $4,000 to see anybody talk?
Not to see them talk for one lecture, no.
Oh, yeah.
You're asking me this and I'm like,
Cortney, hold on. No, just to see one lecture.
No, I would not have been I would have if I had the money though.
Really?
If I had access to it when I was in my business coaching era, yes, I would have.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I
hate money. I think that's my thing. It's I don't pedestal anybody enough to want to pay. It is hard for me to buy a concert ticket.
Right. I don't have.
Okay. It's hard. It's hard. I'm like, ooh, $50 for that. I'm gonna see it on TikTok later. What am I doing? When we saw Taylor Swift, we did go. We got face value tickets. They were $80.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a lot. So I cannot imagine paying what some people who paid thousands and thousands of dollars to see Taylor Swift even.
Right.
And I was at that same concert.
Right.
I can't imagine. Even if I had the money to do that, I wouldn't.
Yeah. So there is something really interesting that happens when you think so little of yourself and so highly of other people. And you think that other people know things that you don't know. And you want so badly to have what they have. It puts you in a really interesting place of being willing to do things for that you would never ever do for anything else. Under normal circumstances,
pay $6,500 for a lecture.
Yeah, I would never pay that. I would never pay that for any concert, even of my favorite.
Dude,
thing.
the love has won cold. clearly did that.
Yes. Yeah, because
that is a very cut and dry example of that.
Yes. That is a really good example of that. It is a weird place to be, like, mentally, to, like, be willing to do that. But I would imagine that, like, people are reading this book and, like, wanting these miraculous results. Like, I could
all
see
want something better.
And he positioned himself as that guru. So, like, something I've learned from that experience.
I would be susceptible to a possible, like, guru
Right.
if I was getting, like, I'm trying to say,
well,
I'm trying to say something, I'm not sure if
they
it's
constantly
true.
So, like, now I don't know how L. Ron Hubbard would have done this back then, but, like, I also was being indoctrinated on the internet constantly about being able to let go of money, and that money is not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And you can just make it right back, and, like, all of that. So, like, that plays into it as well.
I know you pretty well. I don't feel like you're an overspender.
No.
I wouldn't necessarily consider either of us like scarcity mindset, like tight, like white knuckled on our money. But I don't think either of us are necessarily
I was very good at managing money.
Overspender.
I was very good at managing money before.
Like, my favorite place is the thrift store. I've seen you walk away from plenty of things when we're shopping together. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the idea that you had this, that to me, that means you had to have somebody telling you things that would allow for this behavior to take root, because that doesn't seem characteristically.
One thing I am, though, is very naive, and I just believe people. So something that I've had to learn and deconstruct through learning about Scientology and learning about the people that I gave money to, and most gurus, period, is they're embellishing, if not outright lying.
Yeah.
So I also did not understand that and thought that these people had everything they had, did everything. Like, I just took it all at face value, and I didn't realize that people could appear so authentic and be lying out their ass. Yeah. Like, I didn't know that as a 20-something-year-old, as an 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I was, like, 24 that I was like, oh, people can lie to my face and appear very authentic. I didn't know about narcissists.
I would say
I didn't know about sociopaths. Like, I didn't know that.
Learn, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I genuinely had no idea.
And to some people, it costs $500 a lecture.
Yeah.
And a book.
Yeah.
And some people, it costs a lot more.
And Scientologists today, it costs $500,000 and your entire life.
Yeah. And a billion-year contract, which is very sad.
It is. It's so sad. So this is also when, remember I told you that, like, the psychology community didn't agree with him?
Yeah.
In our first episode. So the American Psychiatric Association actually published something in 1950 because it was so popular and gaining so much traction. They looked into it because he wanted it.
That's kind of a slay, though. To be like bringing something so heavy to the table that the American Psychiatric Academy is like, hey, hold on, people.
Let's look at this.
I need you. That is like, kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it was a lot. But they could not make heads or tails of anything in that book.
Yeah.
They could not understand what he was saying at all. And they said that his approach was unscientific and unrealistic. And his technique is that used by hypnotists, fortune tellers, astrologers, and cultists.
Okay, well, why are astrologers thrown in there?
I know. Also, we use hypnosis a lot in psychology.
To be fair, we use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is this when they were electric shock therapy people
and
like lobotomizing people?
Right. But there still was no scientific basis of, like, there was no scientific method to Dianetics. Like, there was no study.
Yeah.
It was just him saying this works.
I'm saying, like, if we were I could understand, like, if we were using lobotomies and electric shock therapy as, like, tools for psychology and, like, making people better, to being like, those hypnotists, like, they're doing nothing. Like, because, like, lobotomizing somebody
is
terrible and a surgery.
Right.
Like,
and
so
invasive.
It's hands-on.
Yeah.
There's being always, like, somebody's going to tell you to do something.
I think this would probably appeal to a lot of people in that sense too. And I remember Liz Gale, when I asked her
of lobotomizing people or Dianetics,
metering. Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
When Liz Gale explained silent birth to me, she was talking about how, like, birthing in the 50s was awful.
Awful.
It was really, really bad.
Yeah.
They would, like, strap women down and, like, all this. So, like,
you just like walk in, get a shave at episiotomy and strap down and like smelling salt or like not smelling salts, but like literally knocked out with some sort of like really hard drug, and then you wake up the next day and be like, wait, who am I?
So like natural birth with no drugs and like a quiet, calm birthing environment is very
appealing
and like sounds really good.
Yeah, it does.
And there's nothing wrong with a calm birthing environment.
No, there's not.
Nothing wrong with an unmedicated, calm birthing environment.
It's when you tell people, wow, look at how blue their eyes are, is going to make this baby go blind later.
It's when you induce shame and guilt from birth to everyone around
and to be fair, birth is a trauma for babies. So I can understand using that as like a manipulation tactic, because like birthing people are very vulnerable.
And there should be informed consent, and it should be the mother's choice. So the mother should have all options of how to give birth and be able to choose for herself.
And
not told you have to do a silent birth and you have to not say anything or else.
Or else. It's the or else.
Yeah. So all of that happened in
the alternatives 1950s. To the 1950s kind of standard practice of care. Being Dianetics is appealing.
Yes. And then Sarah said that Hubbard believed the only reason Scientology wasn't being used by everyone was because the medical institution had a vested interest in keeping people sick.
Well,
which a lot of
people believe that still today.
Yes. That's like I thought that was really interesting.
Basically, for as long as there's been doctors, there's been like doctor non-believers.
Right.
Which is kind of like nuts. Like in like the Civil War, they were inoculating people with like quills and for smallpox. They would like swab a smallpox sore and like jab people with quills and stuff, right?
Yeah.
That was forever ago. Basically, from then, people are like, these doctors have gone too far with their leeches and their quills, like, which is crazy because now I feel like the like anti-medicine movement would be like, just put a leech on it.
Right.
Isn't that wild to think about the like evolution of like anti-medicine?
Yes. He also was scared that he was going to be labeled crazy and locked up.
I wonder why.
He also apparently wrote to like veterans resources after the Navy saying that he was crazy and needed psychiatric help and was denied psychiatric help.
Oh, so is that
so veteran
did he say that, or
he wrote? They found a letter that he wrote. Maybe he was having a lucid moment, and I thought that was interesting because veteran issues, veteran services, we've apparently had issues with.
They're bad forever. They've been bad forever.
And you have a veteran who clearly like needs help. So
some even saying, "I need help."
So some people think that he created Dianetics because he thought he was crazy, and he wanted to explore his own mind and why he was crazy.
Dang it! The little cancer heart inside me is going to be like, "We're wrong, Hubbard." For a second.
It's about to.
Only for a second, I'm saying.
No, but literally the very next thing I'm about to tell you is going to absolutely annihilate
but I still kind of feel bad that he was like looking for something that he couldn't find. Anyway.
Yeah. So there was a decline in sales in clubs very shortly after the boom because people were not getting results. The only results anyone was getting were placebo effects, and we know that those are not common. Yeah, they're short-lived, and it's not super common to have placebo effect. No. Like if you take a whole sample size of people, usually only a few of them will see placebo effects. Then in 1951, Sarah asked for a divorce on cruelty grounds. So in the 50s, divorces, especially from women, it's very, very hard for women to get a divorce in the 50s.
Yeah.
So she asks for a divorce on cruelty grounds. She alleged that LRH dominated her physically and mentally and subjected her to systematic torture, including beatings, loss of sleep, strangulation, and scientific torture experiments.
Oh my God.
Which I find it really, really hard to believe that he did that, which I believe he did that because like he met her in a satanic cult where they were doing really weird rituals and he was doing scientific experiments with Dianetics.
Yeah.
I believe that. I find it really hard to believe that he didn't like severely abuse
other people, anyone else.
Well, people just have to
was he married again?
Yes, we're getting married.
Did that wife ever say anything about having any similarities?
She couldn't. So we're getting
there.
So this gets really, really sad. So prepare yourself because it gets worse. It always gets worse.
Okay.
So in retaliation of Sarah asking for a divorce, and she went to the media because you also can't just ask for a divorce.
No.
Like, so she went to the media alleging that he
and
did
he's
all
famous
this
at this
to her.
point.
Yes, he was famous right now. In retaliation, he abducted their daughter Alexis, who was still a baby at this time, and fled with her to Cuba. To Cuba.
In the 50s.
In the 50s. He wrote Sarah a letter.
How did he even get in?
I don't even know.
That's wild.
He wrote Sarah, he liked boats. He could sail anywhere.
Yeah.
He loved his boats. He wrote her a letter saying that Alexis was being well cared for and that she was all he had to live for. And he promised Sarah that Alexis would inherit a lot of money if she stayed with him. But if Alexis went back to Sarah, he would disavow her and she would inherit nothing.
Do you remember the Children of God? Colt had almost
yeah, isn't that weird?
Almost the exact same story.
Isn't that creepy?
Like her Uncultured by Daniela Mesticknick Young.
Yeah.
Love. This is a shameless plug. Like,
yes.
Absolutely read her book.
Yes.
And follow her on TikTok. She's amazing. But in that book, her mom was that baby, right? Like her mom's mom, her grandmother, got out, called her family, was like, I'm leaving. And her dad just took her and went so deep into other like countries that they couldn't find either of them for a long time. And her mom had to leave. What a death.
So
where are people getting, is there a handbook? Because how many
handbook?
because how many times every cult,
isn't it weird?
There is something similar between
weird.
him and
it's not just
Gothard.
like
him and the Children of God, him and the Love is One, him and Mother God.
It freaks me out. Do you see why I'm like obsessed with cults?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh my God, that's the same. That's the same. Oh my God, but how did that happen?
I'm wondering if there is a
because
freaking handbook.
Because it's not just like the bite model and like sociopaths and like narcissists. They're like similar things that they do.
Yeah.
Like
I'm pretty sure that her grandfather ran to like I don't think it was Cuba, but it was
no, I think it was Colombia.
Colombia. That's where my brain is.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm thinking Colombia and Cuba are the same.
No,
it's just that the
sounds.
seas.
Yeah. So because we know LRH doesn't tell the truth ever, Alexis was not being well cared for.
Of course not.
He didn't know how to care for a baby.
No.
And he left her with a mother and daughter that were actually disabled. He manipulated them into like taking care of Alexis. And they allegedly left her in a cage most of the time. Yeah. So she was like mistreated as like a baby and a young toddler and just kind of fed and left to fend for herself.
In Cuba?
In Cuba. And like Hubbard was there. Like Hubbard was in Cuba.
What was he doing?
Writing, probably. I don't know. He didn't know how to take care of a baby. It gets worse. It gets better though. It definitely gets better.
You're telling me it gets worse than a baby in a cage?
No. I shouldn't have said that.
Okay.
The story is. I'm gonna say something that's gonna be very sad.
Okay.
But it's a happy ending.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I saw a picture of her old.
Yes. So he also, to like manipulate Sarah, would tell her often that Alexis was dead. And he would tell Sarah that he dismembered Alexis and threw her in the river. And then he would go back and be like, just kidding, she's alive. She's being taken care of. It's fine.
What a psychopath.
He's awful. Awful. Who would tell a mother that her child has been dismembered and thrown in the river and then call her up and be like, just kidding. Ha ha ha, funny joke. He's sick. Yeah.
So do you remember when you were like, you're not going to feel sad for him for very long?
Yeah.
I don't feel sad for him. I don't. And if this person is a person who needed help.
Mhm.
How terrible for him to amass a cult of enabling.
Yep.
That mental illness.
That's exactly what he did.
Yeah. How
And
awful.
a lot of people, the way that people talk about Scientology is like, not only did he start a cult to enable his behavior, but he like spread his behavior.
Yeah. I mean,
he created a
the
cult where
fact
like
that
he
fair-
taught other people.
Fair gaming is a part of their doctrine. Insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
But this is like how he thought.
Yeah.
Like he did fair gaming to his
Yeah.
second wife.
Yeah.
That's
she
like
get her
what he thought
divorce?
to do. So he finally came back to the US and Sarah persuaded him to give her Alexis back. Probably because he couldn't take care of her.
Oh, good.
Probably because he had no idea how to take care of a baby. And he also was losing all his money because Dianetics wasn't
doing
popular.
poorly
It was doing
again.
bad. So he gave her Alexis back, but she had to sign a statement saying that everything she said to the media was a lie. So she had to publicly renounce everything she said that he did to her and like sign it. And then he gave her Alexis back.
Well,
and then
there's lots of things I'd sign for my kids.
Oh, same. I would have done that in a second. I'd be like,
And
just
that
give me the baby.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
are you joking?
Do we know how long they were in Cuba for?
It couldn't have been very long.
Okay.
Because he started, it had to have been a year or less.
Okay.
Because then he started doing other things.
Okay.
So they got divorced in 1951.
They were only married for like 3 years.
47 to 51, yeah. Like
crazy. Well, I mean, if he was in Cuba evading this divorce for a year, I'm thinking.
Right. Yeah, true. So he took all the money out of all their bank accounts and then he lost all of his money because he spent money as fast as he got it.
Oh, yeah.
So the Dianetics Foundation and like all the clubs and everything went bankrupt.
Yeah.
And that's how he lost the rights to Dianetics.
Yeah. Oh, you had told me that something had caused a bankruptcy. I didn't know if it was him being bankrupt or like the institute of like Dianetics being bankrupt.
Yeah.
So
it
that
was
makes
just
sense.
everything just I also think it was
They
because of
fell
taxes.
apart.
I think he like partly didn't pay taxes and partly felt like he had to pay a lot of taxes. Like I think there was some
you have to pay a lot of taxes. You're swindling people out of a lot of money.
So that's why he was so big on wanting a nonprofit the second time around, because he was like, I lost all my money. I had to give it all to the government, is what he said.
Well,
maybe learn how to manage your money better.
Ryan.
So he found a new wife really fast.
Of course he did.
Because in 1952, so he got divorced in 1951, went bankrupt in 1952, and then later in 1952, he married his third wife, Mary Sue Witt.
New wife, new grift.
Yeah. So
aptly named.
So remember I told you that he's like on the record saying the best way to make money is start a religion?
Yeah.
He said that 3 times. He said that to Sarah.
No.
He was recorded saying that at that
Scientologist like, no, he would never.
Right. Like he said it so many times. I don't know what the third one was, but he's on record. Like they can prove that he said it 3 times. So he, after losing the rights, he began writing the first Scientology books and publishing them in 1952.
Okay.
And he tried to start a couple different Scientology organizations, which I'm going to read in a minute. But in 1954, he started like the Church of Scientology.
You said that it happened pretty quickly after the bankruptcy.
It was established in California. It was like the first Church of Scientology.
Freaking California.
I know. But in 1952, he married Mary Sue Hubbard. She had 4 children. They had 4 children
together.
So they had Diana.
He had like 7 kids.
He had 7 kids. Diana, Quentin, Suzette, and Arthur.
Okay, like all those names though.
I actually like all those names.
I like all those names.
What am I gonna? Okay, so how he started Scientology, I'm gonna read you this. So the early corporate structure, he initially incorporated Scientology in April 1952 as a for-profit entity called the Hubbard Association of Scientologists. It was not at first presented as a religion. So he still
I would have been fine with that.
Yeah, he still wasn't sure how to like get his religion grift on. He was stewing on it. He was formulating the plan. In April 1953, Hubbard wrote to a colleague to canvass her views on pursuing the religion angle to improve Scientology's business prospects. So in 1953, he wrote to someone and said, "Hey, we got to get this religion angle going. Like, I need to know how to do this religion thing." Then soon afterwards, in December 1953, he incorporated the first Church of Scientology in Camden, New Jersey. Hubbard made no secret. Yeah.
Coast to coast.
Yeah. Hubbard made no secret of why he was interested in a religious approach. Jana Daniels, one of Hubbard's early followers, recalled that among Scientologists, the move to a nominally religious status was an unpopular idea until it was explained by Mr. Hubbard that for tax reasons, a church would get a better shake. So it wasn't originally a religion.
This doesn't make sense. It's
yeah,
not
and
a religion. It's not
they
a
were
religion.
like, we're doing science. Like they were like, we're doing science of the mind. This isn't religion.
Well,
so people thought it was dumb that they would try to make it a religion. On February 18th, 1954, the Church of Scientology of California was incorporated by Burton Farber, a local Scientologist. It was subordinate to the Church of American Science, an entity headed by Hubbard, to which it paid a 20% tithe. A founding Church of Scientology was also established in Washington, D.C. So this also has been started from the beginning. There are a lot of different entities of Scientology.
Yeah, you had said that.
Yeah, like now there's like Religious Technology Center, there's the Church of Scientology, there's like the Church of Spiritual something, I can't remember what it is right now. There's a lot of entities.
It would almost be hard to take down Scientology if you set it up that way, which makes sense if he's a con man.
Yeah. So the HAS was dissolved the following June and was replaced by the Hubbard Association of Scientologists International, so the HASI. So they dissolved the HAS for some reason, made the HASI. Hubbard explained that the intention was to give Scientology complete security from legal interference due to the constitutional guarantees of a Supreme Court ruling that no states shall take action to prevent operation of any organization concerned with the study of the human soul. The HASI would operate as the parent
organization. That language does almost make sense.
Yeah.
Because they're talking about like the soul as like the Thetan and stuff. I could see it.
The HASI would operate as the parent organization, which franchised local Scientology churches or orgs and received 10% of their gross income.
Like the Sea Org, but that's actually not an official entity.
Not one of them. So orgs, ideal orgs, are like the buildings everywhere that like people donate to. So the IRS, though, awarded tax exemption to the California and Washington, D.C. churches.
But not the Jersey one?
No. In 1956 and 1957. But in 1958, the Washington church lost its tax-exempt status on the grounds that its tenets and practices did not constitute an exclusively religious or educational activity. A key factor in the revocation of its exemption was the issue of private inurement, the use of tax-exempt monies to benefit a non-tax-exempt individual or entity. The court claims found that Hubbard and his family had profited from the Washington Church of Scientology. He had been given $108,000 over 4 years by the church. Again, in 1950s.
I say in the 50s.
That's stupid amount of money.
50s, right? That's 57?
Yeah, 57, 58. Well, that was over 4 years. So it was like mid-50s. That's still a stupid amount of money.
Yeah, it's like $1 million now.
He also had the free use of a car and a private residence. But
that's not that crazy. A lot of churches give their which I have
a major problem.
Give their preachers
tax the churches.
Well, yes, but they give their preachers
they do.
like a vehicle and a house.
But his family had withdrawn thousands of dollars from the church's funds, and his wife, Mary Sue, had earned over $10,000 from renting property to the church. Hubbard also had been tithed 10% of the church's gross income.
Hubbard himself.
Yes. The church appealed this to the U.S. Court of Claims, but lost, and the court ruled that Scientology was a business, a profit-making organization run by Hubbard for his personal enrichment. Because it was. Because that's exactly what's happening.
Is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Remember you asked me in the first one, you were like, who gets all this money?
Yes.
It was Hubbard and his family and Mary Sue. They did get paid from the church.
At least 10%.
Yeah. I didn't know that before.
It's kind of crazy, the idea. As somebody who grew up in a tithing church, it's kind of crazy to think about tithing my money directly to my preacher.
Isn't it?
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
They were fine with it, though.
I'd be like, I am also a preacher.
Actually,
I
could do this.
Let's talk about that.
Okay, so later, so after that in 1959, Hubbard was kind of trying to establish a place for him to be where he could try to get tax exemption, not give all his money to the government, and not have people looking into him all the time. So
it's probably
he,
exhausting.
yes,
Because he's like evading, like
Yeah.
it's active evasion and
Yep.
stuff.
So, mind you, he disagreed with this. Like, he disagreed with
Yeah.
these rulings. And remember, I told you he never paid taxes.
Yeah.
So he never was like, oh, shucks. Darn.
Better pay my money.
Gotta give the government. No, he was like, no, thank you. I will be tax exempt.
Why didn't the government like seize personal properties and things?
Because it wasn't personal. It was like church entity stuff.
But if they determined that the church was not like the buildings, the properties, these things were not actually a religious like endowment,
I think
why not seize the property for back taxes?
So I think they left the United States. I think they hid them under other corporations.
Oh, because
Like, I
there's
think
so
they-
many corporations. Yeah.
There was like a lot that they did.
But none of
to
those little or corporations were paying taxes either, or were they?
I don't know.
Okay.
He was doing something.
He's a con man.
Yes. So he landed in St. Hill, England in 1959 as a place where he was going to try to get tax exemption from England. And he started advertising for people to come to St. Hill and study with him there. And he stayed there for a number of years. For like the early 60s. He was in England.
With his wife and children?
Yes.
Okay.
And he was trying to establish tax exemption, whatever England's version of tax exemption is. He was trying to establish
Do they have
that.
tax exemption in
They
England?
have nonprofits. Like they have some level of like nonprofit.
Now I have to know what other country, if other countries tax their churches. And
Some do and some don't.
if so, how?
Mhm. So he also, the FBI, CIA, and MI6 were all monitoring his activities at this point. 'Cause
Good.
They were like, he's
A
not paying
con
us
man.
money.
He's a con
Yeah,
man.
and he's
We need to
doing-
watch.
Yes.
The CIA was like big in that.
He also
CIA and
had
FBI.
a stupid amount of money coming in and going out.
Yeah.
Like he had, like, it was a lot.
And it's not hard to see that.
Right.
Especially if somebody isn't being like the Walter White of money laundering.
Yeah.
Like that's a Breaking Bad reference.
Got it.
Okay. I could see you're like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody's not like that level of money laundering, or like the Ozark, have you seen Ozark?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, there's also a person who's really good at money laundering in that show.
Yeah.
If you're not like on it,
Right.
really laundering this money very smartly, it's like
It's
so
super easy to figure
easy
out.
to
Yeah.
tell that when people are like
Right.
making more money than they're paying taxes on, making more money than they're claiming, making more money than like makes sense for this person to have. Like that's a really like a very easy thing.
Remember my
figure
neighbor
out.
that I told you about that we were like, how do they have this big house?
Yeah.
Yeah. She was laundering money.
She was laundering money. It's easy.
It's really easy.
It's really easy to get caught.
Yeah. Okay. So he had all this pressure from various governments. Now England's looking at him. The United States is looking at
Good.
him. A couple places are looking at him. So this is when he establishes the Sea Org and took this to the seas. So it's called the Sea Org because what he did was he got 3 ships and put Scientologists on boats along with his wife and children.
Because international waters and laws being different.
He said, there's a lot of water on the earth.
There is a lot of water on the earth.
I bet I could hide in it.
I bet you can. I mean, the people get lost in the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah. So he set it up as a
It's easy to like actually get lost in the ocean.
It is.
I'm not making a joke about the Bermuda Triangle. I'm just saying like it's actually very easy to get lost in the ocean.
Yeah.
The ocean's a very dangerous place.
Yeah, you get confused. It's really easy to get confused.
And
again,
storms.
this was before modern
And
whatever.
you can't just
I mean, they had sonar and like stuff.
not on like a personal boat probably. He just had like a
got,
compass.
ships. Like they were like,
Shit.
yes.
Money.
I told you.
I'm sorry. You said
There's
a
a
lot.
stupid
I'm
amount of
having a
money
hard
going
time
in and out.
conceptualizing.
Yeah, so he's
like a millionaire
yeah,
in like the late 50s.
Yeah,
He's like
like
a millionaire, you think?
hundreds of millions. I think.
In the
I
by the
think.
60s?
I think a lot of people were paying a lot of money. But okay, so regardless, millionaire, hundreds, maybe tens of millions.
Okay.
Let's split it in the middle. Say he was a tens of
Let's
millions.
compromise.
Yeah. So he
We
did
don't have the
work.
tax documents
Exactly.
to confirm.
Right. We don't know. We don't know. So he set it up like the Navy. That's why they have the silly uniforms, because he made it a quasi-military organization.
I have closed my eyes
gave
and
people
thought about
ranks.
those uniforms so many times since last week. Just like, wow.
How are they not impersonating?
They are.
foreign
They
government?
are. They are. Anyway.
So people think that he did that because it was just an easy blueprint of a way to maintain control.
Well, yeah.
Like, it was
The
just an
military
easy,
is.
yes, it was strict and rigid, and it was a way for him to run things just so and have people follow it. And like know in their mind, like, oh, it's like the military.
Yeah.
Like, you know, people would not question it as much.
Yeah, probably
back then. And he made himself the commodore of a fleet of 3 ships called the Avon River, the Enchanter, and the HMS Royal Scotsman. He later rechristened the vessels. I don't know why those names weren't okay.
I love the idea of being like, actually, can I get a redo? I don't know what I was thinking with the Enchanter.
He's like, this is dumb.
Royal Scotsman? I'm not Scottish.
We do. He renamed them to the Diana, the Athena, and the Apollo. So fuck the rest of his kids, but Diana gets a ship.
Was that his first with his third wife?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If I have a ship, I'm gonna name it after my first of my 5 children.
Just
that one though.
PJ actually, since we started dating, like really early on in dating, said that he always wanted a boat to name the Cassandra Marie.
Oh,
like he was like, I want a boat so bad, and I'm gonna name it the Cassandra Marie.
Look at you.
He was like, that's such a good boat name.
So
like, he thought my name was like a good boat name.
It is a good boat name.
Like, that could be a really cute romantic story, but like also he was like, that's a great boat name.
Also, let's just let him be a romantic little man. Like, my husband's so obsessed with me, he wants to name boats after me.
I mean, I think he also was a little
he is obsessed.
Yes. But yeah, so he had his boats, and this is when we're gonna get to another cult comparison. So the Scientology website says that the Sea Organization was established in 1967. So that's how long he was in England, like 59 to about 67.
Okay.
And once operated from a number of ships. It was formed to assist L. Ron Hubbard with advanced research operations and supervise church organizations around the world. The Sea Organization is entrusted to minister the advanced services of Scientology. The Sea Organization retains its traditional name, although today the majority of its members are based on land. In keeping with the tradition of the order's inception, however, they still wear maritime-style uniforms and have ranks and ratings. So it wasn't to evade government.
Are the people who like stand outside the testing centers? Yeah. You said who keep us houses.
They do all the work.
Are they wearing maritime clothes when they're doing that?
Yes, they have like these cute little uniforms.
Are they sailors?
A little, yeah.
Really?
Like the really
like
casual
Navy.
Are less so, but the other ones, especially the higher up you go in the Sea Org, they're wearing these.
I'm too easily embarrassed for something like that. I would have been like, I'm in. Let's go.
They love it.
Here's the Sea Org. I'm ready to do the Sea Org. They would be like, you have to wear this uniform. I'm like, I'm out.
Wait till you hear this.
On the streets.
Wait till you hear this. Also, they're only paid like $50 a week in the Sea Org. And they have to buy all their own like deodorant and like laundry detergent and stuff like that, like normal things.
Yeah.
Like they're supposed like that's not provided by
they have
Scientology.
A cost of living.
Also, they work so much that they don't wash those uniforms very often.
Oh yeah.
And it's like a thing. I've actually been told this by like non-Scientologists.
But you have to like dry clean them too. If they're like
this is actually really weird. I've heard from non-Scientologists, like friends that I know, like on TikTok and stuff, that have known Scientologists that say Scientologists have a smell.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's a thing.
Like an unwashed.
No, people say they have like a distinct smell. Like people say that like Mormons look a certain way. People say Scientologists have a distinct smell.
I don't know if we can get into it.
People used to say that it was because
stinky or like
I don't know.
they
Probably
all like
stinky.
share.
So people think that it's
their
because
laundry stuff, their deodorant. Like it's communal because they can't all afford it.
People think it's because they're stinky because they don't shower super often in the Sea Org,
Yeah.
not like regular Scientologists.
Yeah.
But I've heard people say regular Scientologists have like a smell too.
Mm-hmm.
But they do have weird parameters on some things that they can like put in their bodies, and they also take a lot of the same vitamins. So I wonder if that's why. But it was also thought that Sea Org people used to buy all the same kind of soap because it was like the cheap soap that you could get like everywhere, and it was like the cheapest kind. So people also thought it was because they didn't shower very much and all use the same like cheap soap,
like Irish Spring or whatever.
Yeah. So those uniforms might also be stinky and gross.
They probably are.
Don't get to wash them super
Listen,
often.
as a band kid,
uniforms
like
get stinky. Yeah, it's like that.
And you have to dry clean them.
Yep. So L. Ron Hubbard was actually on television in 1968. It's one of the only times he's ever like spoken publicly or like made a public appearance, and it was on Granada television. I think it was like an English, British
I don't know anything about it.
But I'm actually gonna find it and I'm gonna show it to you.
So you want to see me? Yeah. You said you wanted me to see it. Do you want me to Google it on my thing, or do you want to be able to put it up on?
I'll have to edit it in after. So if you want to search it, you can totally do that. But he said that what he was doing. So Scientology. This is where we have three versions. Scientology says that he was.
Okay.
Scientology's version was he was doing advanced research. L. Ron Hubbard's version was that he was studying ancient civilizations. He believed.
So that's what L. Ron Hubbard says, and Scientology says he was researching ancient. Like they both say the same thing. No,
they said researching new operations.
New operations.
Advanced research operations is what he was doing. He said in 1968 he was studying ancient civilizations because he believed he lived past lives in the Mediterranean. So these ships were going all around the Mediterranean and bouncing between ports in the Mediterranean is where they initially were doing all
arguably the best like climate in the world, the best like.
Yes. So he said that in his past lives that he lived, he was like different princes and kings and stuff in the Mediterranean, and he buried treasure.
Did he ever find treasure?
So he was treasure hunting in the Mediterranean because he said that he knew he buried treasure there and needed to find it. And spoiler alert, there was no treasure.
I was saying he never finds treasure.
Who does that remind you of?
Douglas.
He so carefully stepped around on the wire.
He is more careful than the other one. Okay, who does that remind me of? Buried treasure.
Treasure hunting. Treasure hunting cult leader where there was no treasure.
Oh, why am I blinking?
I'll just tell you so that you can watch the thing.
Thank
Joseph Smith.
Yeah, I was saying Joseph Smith thought there was treasure.
Because you brought that up to me.
I was thinking the Mormons. Yeah.
So he did that too, but he said that like God was telling him.
Yeah.
Like where the treasure was, and then would go on treasure hunts and not find it.
Dude, I did not know that much about Joseph Smith until I talked to like a close friend of mine that's Mormon.
Yeah.
And she was telling me about Joseph Smith, and her husband were not like preaching to us. We were just very curious. Like, so what is the deal with Joseph Smith? Like, and they were just very like, this is it. Like, they weren't like evangelizing or like recruiting. They were just telling us. And we were like listening to them. And Ben and I were doing the like, and I'm watching you. Like it was kind of a wild thing. Okay.
Yep. Also, this is where we first get evidence of him lying about his wives. So on that interview, he said he only had 2 wives.
The one he left out the one who said he was mean.
Yes. He now requires that his
weird way
must have training in judo and weaponry, and that they must be ethically beyond reproach, tough, formidable, and effective.
Okay, in case my mic is not picking this up, you need to link this video because it just says that they need to be formidable and tough and trained in weaponry. His new recruits.
Yeah.
That's scary.
He made them do weird things, but I don't know that they were like.
He said that he is saying that they have to be trained in judo, weaponry. They have to be tough and formidable because they're becoming more militant.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? That's crazy. That's actually crazy. Okay.
That's very interesting. But let's correct an impression first. You said you were in trouble.
What is he doing with his mouth?
Let's get my relationship to this completely straight. Go on. I am the writer of the textbooks of Scientology. About 2.5 years ago or so, I even ceased to be a director of organization. The government, in the first place, I am not in trouble with the British government, not even faintly. And if I went in today or tomorrow through immigration, they would tip their hat.
And he's clearly lying.
Yeah. He looks
Immigration
cuckoo.
officials might well
Okay, hold on. You remember in Men in Black when the alien takes over that guy's body?
Yeah.
That's what he looks like. Maybe he
Yeah.
does have a Thetan.
Okay, so wait, I'm gonna get there. He actually, like later in his life, thought that he had a Thetan in him that was like possessing him. And that's like not what he said. Like that's not really part of Scientology to be like possessed by Thetans, but he thought he had this like such a strong body Thetan that he couldn't audit it out. Like he thought he was possessed by something before.
Okay, but let's just speculate for a second that we believe in demons and demon possession. Wouldn't it be nuts if L. Ron Hubbard's like was like a weird but okay normal guy, because he didn't, as far as we know, abuse his first wife.
Right. That's true.
And then he got possessed by a demon in the devil house.
That'd be crazy.
And then all of everything after that was just this demon possession. And he like wrote that letter being like, I need help. There's something wrong.
That'd be you're gonna start a new Scientology conspiracy theory, and I need you to know that people are gonna latch onto this, and we're gonna get comments all the time now that are like, no, you don't understand. L. Ron Hubbard was demon possessed.
Maybe he was.
Okay, the Christians are gonna latch onto this one. They really are.
Okay, but like, could you imagine?
That's crazy.
I need people to watch that video. I need people to watch that video.
Creepy.
He looks like somebody possessed by a demon.
He really does.
He looks like when the alien in Men in Black takes over that guy's body in the very beginning.
Yep. Yeah.
Because
So
he's doing something weird with his mouth that's not
normal.
That's not like what I would consider a very like common human expression.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure that I do weird things.
Well, so listen to this. So he said that he has his wife now, right? He said that his first wife died. She didn't die. She just abandoned her.
That's easily provable,
it's
people.
Easily provable. And then they asked, they were like, what about your second wife? And he goes, I never had a second wife.
And
I wrote in my notes that
that video is 26 minutes long. I will watch it later.
Yeah. Well, I wrote in my notes, I was like, he's not even good at lying, because if you were like doing a good lie, you would be like, I'm married to my second wife.
Yeah.
But he didn't say I'm married to my second wife. He said I never had a second wife.
So, and he's married right now.
But you're saying then that they're. What do you mean?
He's lying the way an alien or a demon would think that people lied. He's like lying like a human would.
Be human. No second wife.
The second
what
wife
are you
does
talking
not
about? Okay, and then I wrote this down because I wanted to tell you we're gonna do an episode about the Sea Org. And I had to tell you this, that when people made mistakes in auditing or in their job in the Sea Org, L. Ron Hubbard threw them overboard.
I would say he walked the plank. They threw them overboard.
They
something
they
crazy.
didn't even walk the plank.
How many people died like that?
I don't know. They didn't say. No one's ever said that someone died like that. But they would drop like 30 feet into the ocean. And then
into the open Mediterranean Sea.
Yeah. And like my question is, like, did they leave them or did they gather them back up onto the boat?
Like it was like torture technique.
I don't know.
Of like fear and
my problem with these documentaries and like some of these articles is like I have questions about that. Okay?
I have questions. Yeah.
I have questions about how are you gonna just and he threw people overboard. Then what? What do you mean?
I need you to do it like a documentary.
I looked. There's not like no one like says past that. Sometimes I wonder if
where
I'm
we
like
weird. Crowdsource your like traveling with like a camera crew and figuring this out.
I'm sure I could dig into the community of ex-Scientologists and someone might know like what they did to them after.
Is that like on like Reddit?
I don't think they're on Reddit. I'm just friends with them.
I'm just like your I'm sure I could dig into the community of ex-Scientology. I thought you meant like there was like a forum.
No. Well, they have like Facebook groups and stuff, but like for them.
Cassie just knows people and has.
I just mean my friend Liz Gale.
Mostly.
and Serge Delmar are my friends. Yeah. Not to brag.
No, I was about to say, name drop. Don't you?
Not to brag on me.
Wow. Can you get a handle on your computer, please?
Sometimes I think I'm weird because I don't know who in their right mind would breeze over thrown overboard.
Yeah, no, I can't. I think that if you're weird, I'm the same brand of weird because I'm going. They died. Like what happened?
Yeah, like what happens after that? That's as
Okay.
far as I got with my cool
Notes, PowerPoint.
PowerPoint, but I
Okay.
have more notes. So let's find it in here though.
You need to put your PowerPoint up on your membership.
Maybe I'll finish it.
Finish
Oh,
it
yeah,
and put it
yeah.
up in your membership Patreon
That's a good
stuff.
idea. That's a really
Yeah.
good idea. Okay. So
And you need to make a coloring book, just a page of the L. Ron Hubbard's like sea.
Oh, okay. I can't believe I didn't even get this far. Okay, so in the mid 70s, so the Sea Org started in 67. They were going around the Mediterranean to all the ports.
And at this point, they are not tax exempt because they did
Right.
not receive that tax exempt
Right.
status until like 95.
Yep. So in the mid 70s, the ships were banned from most ports in the Mediterranean.
What were
They were
doing?
menaces to society.
I was say, what were they doing?
They were like recruiting people and just being annoying.
Well, they are
and like
annoying.
Hubbard would like go in like smoking places and like they were just they were weird people and they were like isolated and like they didn't have the internet back then and cults were dangerous and scary.
Well, cults
So
are
they
dangerous and
very
scary.
clearly were a cult and like had cult plays and like
I
all
would
of
say
those
that
things.
1,000-yard stare. They
Yes.
just were odd. They were disconnected.
And they kept to themselves and they didn't try to like integrate or be nice with the communities. They just popped into these ports and were like weirdos.
When did Jonestown happen?
The 70s.
I was like,
Yeah,
so is this pre or post? Like
Pre. This
everybody
still would
knowing?
be pre
Okay,
that. But
because
the
that really
people-
changed the public view
it
on
did.
cults.
It did. But people still were like fucking weirdos.
Well,
Get out of our ports.
okay, so
And they were American. Like they were
after
either
the
American
first-
or British.
I would say the American thing would be very like
Yeah.
a put off for
Right.
that area. I did watch one of your videos after our first episode about people recruiting people on the street. Those people look weird.
Yes.
They don't seem super like they don't seem like they get it.
They don't.
So I don't know how else
Yeah.
to say that. They don't seem weird like L. Ron Hubbard.
Yep. So
but they seem weird.
in the 70s, so they got banned
From
right?
all the ports in the Mediterranean. Every
And
port.
Hubbard was looking for a base in the United States because he was getting
Oh no. Like seasick or like death? Like
he was having
dying.
issues and needed doctors, which he
Mm.
wasn't supposed to have
Me.
issues or need doctors.
Why would he? He audits everything.
Right.
And himself.
So we're gonna do a whole deep dive into how they landed in Clearwater, Florida. But that's what happened. He set off.
You've
different
never
expeditions.
told me that they land in Clearwater, Florida. You're just gonna breeze over.
That's why I went to that's why like I visit the Scientology. I will tell the story of how that came to be later. But that's what happened. And then Hubbard had to sneak ashore.
Yeah, because
In
otherwise
Florida?
his followers would think that he wasn't legitimate.
And at this point, he was being subpoenaed.
And he was
So the governments were finding stuff. They've been digging up dirt on him since the late.
Is it all
60s.
taxi stuff?
Yeah, it's all like fraud.
Okay.
It's all fraud, tax evasion, stuff like that. And they had subpoenaed him for several things. So he was in hiding and he stayed in hiding for the rest of his life.
Wow. When did he
But his
how many
wife and
years is
kids-
that?
Till 1986. So in the mid 70s is when they landed in Clearwater and he was snuck ashore.
10 years he just hid.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Absolutely. So his wife, though, Mary Sue, was active in Scientology. His kids were all active in Scientology. I'm going to give you the breakdown of his kids at the end here because, like, we're nearing the end of his life.
They're all
But-
active.
No, I'm going to
They
give you the
were.
breakdown. Yeah, but they were. They were all of the last four.
That's what
were.
I mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there was something we're going to do a whole episode on this. In 1978, because of the IRS and Hubbard being subpoenaed and then wanting tax exemption, Scientology launched like an investigation and an infiltration of the government called Operation Snow White. There's a whole
Why
story
Snow
behind it,
White?
and it's really crazy.
He's not good at naming things.
He's not good at naming anything. No, he's not.
Because, like, truthfully, Dianetics, kind of a wild name. Scientology isn't very clear on what we're doing here.
Right.
The Enchanter and the
Mhm.
King Royal Scotsman.
So several Sea Org executives and his wife Mary Sue Hubbard,
Mhm.
were charged with crimes due to Operation Snow White, and Mary Sue spent 2 years in prison because of Operation Snow White and what she was convicted
Yeah,
of.
because it's illegal.
And then after she was in prison, it was seen as like bad PR for Scientology. And since she took the fall, so L. Ron Hubbard wouldn't take the fall, she was then like exiled to a house, to like a mansion in California for the rest of her days,
Oh,
and was
well.
heavily monitored by.
If I have to be exiled somewhere, so a mansion and
She had like a nice house,
California.
but she was monitored 24/7.
so she
she
couldn't
had
like go to the
guards.
store.
Right.
Crazy.
Because no one wanted her to leave Scientology, and no one wanted her to speak out.
Sounds very similar to
So-
another wife of Scientology.
Yes. So we don't know if he was abusive to Mary Sue because we did not hear from her
In her
after she
later
was
life.
in prison.
Yeah.
Yes. So what did I say here? He went a little crazy towards the end of his days. He was really sick with a number of ailments.
With a demon.
He thought he had a powerful Satan that infected his body, that he couldn't audit out of him. And he asked another Scientologist to make a device that would kill the Satan and blow up the body.
Like his body.
Yes.
What a crazy person.
So he was also.
At least he's committed to the bit, though.
He was all. Well, people think that he did go crazy in his later years and like drank his own Kool-Aid.
I say he's committed.
And
he
believed-
really is.
People think he did really believe in Scientology.
he might have.
They think it was fake. They think, like, obviously it was his science fiction stories, but they think he bought into it for so long that he fully believed in what he created.
Look, I'm not saying it's a demon possession, but it kind of sounds like a demon possession.
You're cracking me up with that.
I'm just saying, like, if a demon possessed the body of a science fiction writer, could you imagine them being like, we have information here.
Yeah.
We're sitting on something big, boys.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Scientologists luckily did not want to
I would say,
kill him.
did they blow him up?
No, they did not want to kill him. So they made like a Tesla coil and attached it to an e-meter and like shocked him, and it like destroyed the e-meter. But the Scientologist that he asked to do that was like, I'm not gonna kill L. Ron Hubbard. Are you kidding me?
I can't kill this guy.
Yeah, he literally was like, no, sir.
To be fair, that kind of seems like a dissent against, because like, isn't it more common that a cult leader with all this coercive power asking you to kill them, they would kill
That you would do it?
Yeah.
It was a form of dissent. So in 1980, on January 24th, 1986, after being in hiding for many years, he did have a super tight inner circle of people that still were in communication with him and running Scientology.
Was the Miscavige guy one of those people?
No.
Where the
You're welcome.
hell does this guy come into play?
In our next episode,
Okay,
you will
so I
learn.
don't have to wait very long.
No.
Tune in next week.
Yes. So he died of a stroke.
Oh,
He died of a stroke in 1986. Because he was having health issues for 10 plus years.
yeah.
They had a Scientology lawyer say that L. Ron Hubbard was in good health when he discarded his body. But he died of a stroke.
I would say that's got to be because of like right mind, sound body sort of laws.
So he couldn't be sick. Like he couldn't be
Yeah.
sick. He couldn't have died. He actually, like, Scientology also promised immortality.
Like physical, real immortality.
Yeah, that was like OT8. And like beyond OT8, you were supposed to learn how to like transcend the body like entirely.
No,
and,
no,
like,
no.
be
That was not
immortal.
clear last week. Don't look at me like that. I thought you meant like reincarnation and more lives.
Well, I think that's
and,
what it's
like
kind
a
of like.
cycle.
Well, I think that's kind of what it's like evolved into, because obviously L. Ron Hubbard died.
Yeah.
So like I think it's more
And
evolved
it's been
into
around
like
since the
spiritual
60s,
immortality.
50s.
Right.
Surely
Some
Scientologists
Right.
have died.
Right.
We're in 2024.
Right. So David Miscavige gave like a Scientology press conference and said LRH is doing research similar to the Sea Org and the Mediterranean. He needs to do further research. I probably just messed with my. He needs to do further research where the body is becoming a hindrance to his OT operating Thetan research levels. So he had to, and remember, he hadn't been seen for 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's not like he was around and then wasn't. He hasn't been around.
Yeah.
So they said the whole
And they
10
were
years.
recruiting Scientologists during that 10 years, I'm sure, who never even saw him.
Yes, exactly. And he was supposed to be doing OT
He was just like a
research.
silent figurehead.
Right. And he was doing OT research all those 10 years. So he was like, he's done all this OT research.
That's
He's
where the
done
rewrites
OT.
come from.
It's where the rewrites come from. They're now promising OT 9, OT 10, OT 11, 12,
But
like
those
whatever.
aren't here.
He never wrote
They're
them.
not
And then he died.
coming.
And so then he said, now he's having to do OT research.
In the ether.
Yes. His body is a hindrance.
So
in
do
the
they
universe.
believe then in a similar immortality to like Christians in heaven and hell and stuff? Like in that sort of same like line, if it's evolved from like physical immortality to like everlasting life in the afterlife? Like,
no, I think
or is it
now,
like constant reincarnation? Like I don't
think
understand
it's constant reincarnation,
theology.
and Scientology is supposed to help you skip. So they think that when people die, they go to a planet and get their minds erased. So remember I was telling you I couldn't remember exactly what they thought happened when you died, but they thought you just immediately reincarnated.
I'm trying really hard not to like actually laugh.
I know.
That idea is straight out of a science fiction book.
So they think everyone goes to this planet. It has a name. They think they wipe your memories. And that's why Scientology auditing
Didn't
does
Disney
like
make a movie about that?
Probably.
I'm just joking. Soul? Have you seen Soul?
Well, Soul, they don't
I know,
reincarnate.
But it's kind of funny because they're preparing these souls for their bodies.
So they think that if you do Scientology, you skip the planet where your memory is erased and you come back and you remember all your past lives. So Scientologists are supposed to come back to Scientology and remember all their past lives.
That's kind of I could see that being a hook.
Yes. Yeah. So he died. They said he was fine. They built a $10 million mansion for him at Scientology's international base.
Makes sense.
To be ready for him to come back. Because
this is during their non-tax exemption period.
Yes.
He never sees their tax exemption.
Yes.
Again.
Yes.
He dies before he gets it.
Yes. So they built him a $10 million mansion. My friend Ian.
They could do that.
My TikTok friend Ian. I didn't name drop Ian earlier. So Ian said that one of LRH's houses, because it went from, initially they built this $10 million mansion. They wash his clothes every day. They lay them out every morning. They're waiting for him to come back. Now there's like a few houses where he could come back to. And Ian said that they have a Jaguar waiting in the garage of one of the houses.
Tasteful car though. I love a Jaguar.
Yeah. So he's got the works when he's ready.
Good for him.
Back. Also, when people die and skip the prison planet or skip the
prison planet is they call
Earth is the prison planet.
Oh, well, to be fair,
Earth is because the Thetans were sent to the prison planet. Remember Xenu?
Yeah.
Sent the Thetans to the prison planet.
You did not tell me that it was called the prison planet last
I've been
week.
watching so much Scientology shit.
Like I have forgotten.
I'm getting confused.
You're like, I have forgotten more about Scientology than I have ever known. Than most people know.
Yes.
I bet you have.
I'm getting confused.
I bet you have.
So
I did not know about the prison planet. To be fair though, Earth.
Yes. So you skip the planet you go to wipe your memory.
Okay. Cool.
Right? When you're in the Sea Org, you're supposed to skip that planet and you're given a 21-year leave of absence. Remember they give you sign a billion-year contract.
So you get like a blip of a rest.
So they say you get a 21-year leave of absence because you died. And you got to get the new body and you got to grow up in it.
And we don't have the internet in the ether.
Right. So like you give you 21 years.
Can't just like beam you up.
L. Ron Hubbard is well past his 21-year leave of absence.
Well, did he sign a billion-year contract?
He is the billion-year contract. Of course he's coming back.
But if he didn't sign it, maybe he gets a 42-year leave of absence.
Well, I guess when he comes back.
Well, you did say in the comments on TikTok that somebody tried to do that.
Yes. So,
and I've avoided any discourse about that.
So a man, I'll tell you that in a second. That'll be in the bonus content. I'll tell you that when I'm done talking about
and subscribe.
Become a member for the bonus content that I don't have yet, but I will.
And if she doesn't, I will make it happen.
Anywho, so out of his 7 children, so you would think if someone invented a religion and it was the answer to life and the answer to all your problems, and you would have kids, that your kids would be great and healed and have the answer to all their problems.
No,
right?
I wouldn't assume that.
Well, if it were real,
Even if it were real.
you wouldn't assume that someone's kids would.
Do you think like God's son was super healed?
That's always Jesus.
And he sacrificed himself on a cross knowing what was about to happen.
But he was.
Sounds very people pleasy to me. Are you kidding?
You kill me. Okay, well, Cortney doesn't expect that your kids would be perfect. But
Okay,
I would
but to
expect
be
it.
a therapist's kids,
Right, right.
I get the train of thought, but I'm just saying, like, I couldn't imagine the pressure of being like a theologian's child. Preacher's
Yes,
kids have a
yes.
hard time, let alone like a theologian.
Right. So 7 kids.
Like, 2 with his first wife, Alexis,
Yes.
Hmm.
So there was
and then 4.
Catherine and his first wife did not have anything to do with Scientology. He abandoned them and they were like, deuces, get me out.
Yeah, that's Nibs.
So Nibs,
yeah.
the Nibs was his right-hand man at first, but
Mhm.
left by 59 and
Yeah.
changed his name.
Yeah, was like,
Because he
get
was
me
like,
GTF.
You're crazy. In the 80s, Nibs testified
against
L. Ron Hubbard in Congress and was like, my dad made this shit up. Like there, you can find the videos of Nibs.
Oh, I
testifying
guess
as well.
that's before the Devil House. That pokes a hole in my demon possession.
No, because Nibs came back after.
Oh, he did. It almost solidifies.
It's still holding true.
my demon possession.
But yeah, he literally testified to Congress and said that my dad made all of this
He's-
up. It is not a
he needs help,
religion.
probably.
Yes. He was like, he's crazy. He's
Yeah.
wide. He also went on TV in 1983.
I saw the picture. It looked like a TV interview.
He went on TV and was like, my dad's crazy.
I'm gonna have to find that interview.
Yeah. And then Nibs sadly died in 1991.
Mhm.
He was working as a security guard in Nevada at the time.
So he didn't
Nibs?
see their tax exemption come back either.
No, and Nibs was fair game in 1983 in his TV
Was he like
interview.
the first?
Not the first, because like they fair gamed. Well, maybe I don't
I
know.
was like, could you imagine being the parent and being like, this person deserves
Mhm.
everything that's about to happen to them, and
Isn't that
fair gaming
crazy?
them? No.
And
I
Nibs said he was severely fair gamed. He said it was a policy written by his dad, and he said they were like, "Do you think that Scientology's trying to kill you?" And he's like, "Yeah, I do."
Oh, but for some reason, Scientologists never kill anybody
On purpose. They kill people on accident. But Nibs said he thought that Scientology was trying to.
Was he killed?
I don't know.
Was his death suspicious? He was a security guard.
I didn't look into it that far because there's too much. And also, I didn't want to.
You need to put that in your memory.
Okay. So that's the first 2. Alexis, he disowned, disavowed, did not claim her at all.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because she looks exactly like him.
Just like him.
So like,
But he never had a second wife.
go off, LRH. Try to disavow Alexis all you want. She's very clearly
His.
has your DNA.
Yeah.
There's no question.
But he's never had a second wife. So that doesn't make any
Right.
sense that she would be
So
his.
the next 4, Diana
Mm-hmm.
is the only one that was still in Scientology. That was in Scientology her whole life.
Well,
I don't know if
has a
she's still alive
boat
or
named
not.
after her.
Right.
Okay.
She was also like gorgeous, like stunning, and everyone loved her. Like in the Fjord and stuff. Like she became like the golden child. Suzette
Mm-hmm.
was very tomboyish, very like rough and tough and like whatever. She did leave Scientology eventually and like lived out the rest of her. She was just like, I'm out of here. I don't know if that happened before or after LRH died, but she did leave. Quentin is also a really sad story. So everyone thought Quentin was gay, like from the time he was very little. Quentin was a little
Like, is he a little?
yes. And it was everyone kind of talked about it and it was
That's
kind of like
sad.
he never admitted to it and like
You told
no
us
one ever
last
said
week
it.
that they
But
were
yes,
very
it
upset about
was
that.
so like LRH said that LGBTQ plus people, he said gay, lesbian, because remember, like the Bible doesn't even say anything about lesbian.
No.
They just
say homosexuality.
yeah, but specifically, like if you translate it, the
Yeah,
Bible
it's-
talks about men lying with men.
Yeah.
There's no talk of women lying with women.
Okay.
Anywho, LRH said any of it was like a sexual deviancy. And
Should be
that they
audited out,
It should
basically.
be audited out. But in some of his writings, he said sexual deviance should be sent to an island and the island blown up. Similarly to how he accidentally blew up in Mexican Island when he was an officer in the Navy. Yeah, he said like that's appropriate for sexual deviance to be blown up on an island, and that include all LGBTQ. Yeah. So it was like LRH thought it was horrid. Like absolutely, Quentin would have been absolutely tortured in his mind for being like, he would have thought he is the scum of the earth.
Was it ever confirmed if he was or was not LGBTQ?
It was never confirmed, and he unfortunately committed suicide, and that's how his life ended. He sat in a garage. He tried to do carbon monoxide poisoning with like a car exhaust, and he was found and then died 2 days later in the hospital.
That's sad.
It's really sad. People said, all Sea Org members said that he was actually the nicest.
Of course he was.
That he was like a lovely person and super nice.
He might not even have been gay. He may have just been clean and nice.
He also might have just been clean and nice. Yeah. And then I can't remember what happened to
like I'm really not exaggerating.
And then Arthur left as well, the youngest. He was like a renowned artist in California.
Wow.
But he was like also like this is nuts.
Were his other children fair gamed? The ones that left?
No, because they didn't speak out. Nibs was fair gamed
because he went on TV and testified.
So they were like, shut it down.
Are you nervous about being fair gamed?
Nope. Nope, not at all. I think Scientology is too busy. They're too busy.
We already know that there's like not that many people in it anymore.
Yeah, and there's too many people speaking out. Now, if I started protesting regularly, yes, that's why she's suing David Miscavige in the church
for fair gaming her. Okay,
yeah. So I think if I were doing more, like if I had information that no one else had, I would be fair gamed. But I wasn't ever a Scientologist, so I don't have access. The only thing I'm talking about is things that other people have already talked about. So they wouldn't fair game me because like I can't talk about anything that hasn't already been revealed by someone else.
Okay. All right. So next week it is David Miscavige.
We're gonna pick up with David Miscavige taking over.
Okay.
Because he was not in L. Ron Hubbard's inner circle.
Which is nuts.
At all.
Did he pick up did he take over right as soon as he died?
He did.
There wasn't like an interim with like no leader.
No.
Ooh.
But L. Ron Hubbard died without a succession plan at all.
Well, he thought he was gonna live forever.
Yes. Except for the time that he wanted to unalive himself because he couldn't audit the body thing.
Yeah. I forgot about that for a second.
But after,
like, can you blow me up?
After he didn't get
otherwise, I'm going to live forever. Yeah, I'm really excited about that one. This was a wild ride,
wasn't it?
This was a wild ride.
It was a wild.
That was really crazy.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you've made it all the way to the very end, love you so much. Please make sure you like and subscribe if you want to see more culty content, and I will see you next time on No Culty Vibes. Bye.